Hi guys, so here's another interview. I'm joined by the mighty Rick Graham. How are you doing, Rick?
I'm doing really well, Sam. What about you?
Oh, just splendid, thank you. Good to see you.
Brilliant. Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Yeah. So I've got a list of questions here in no particular order, just stuff that I'm interested about, and hopefully people will find interesting.
Yeah.
So
fingers
first
crossed.
thing I want to talk about is very early inspiration. What was it that drew you to the guitar right at the beginning?
It's a good question, this. How far back do you want me to go? Because I actually got into guitar quite late on, actually. I was like 17 when I first started playing. But my dad's a guitar player, so music was a huge part of my upbringing.
So you're always exposed to music around the house?
Always. There was always guitars and keyboards and all sorts lying about the house. And, my dad being a musician, guitar player, was into bands like Genesis and, all sorts of players like Rory Gallagher and, those kind of guys. So I was exposed to a lot of that when I was young, even before being a guitar player. But I started, I kind of dabbled with the guitar, played a few chords when I was about 12, 13. But that, I tried it and then just put it straight down, didn't really continue it, and kind of messed about on the keyboard a bit. And then when I hit 17, I started to play drums. And this guy at college I was at said that he'd give me drum lessons. So I did that for a bit, and that kind of tailed off. And I thought, hang on, why don't I stick with guitar? Because there was always a guitar at home, and it made absolute sense. So, and picked it up, and it just felt right from the moment that I picked it up. And
nice.
I was kind of lucky as well, though, because my dad was really supportive of what I was doing.
Yeah.
So
that's always a big thing, isn't it? Having parents who support what you want to do.
Absolutely. He was always there pushing, which was brilliant.
You started on, or was it?
Say again.
Did you have an acoustic on?
It was an acoustic. It was an encore acoustic with action like that high. A finger bleeder, basically.
Yeah. If you could stick with that, then you're going to stick with it. Right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Jesus, that was, I remember it being hard work, but, you don't know back, when you first start. So it was an encore acoustic that I started on. I remember playing a few things. Actually, one of the first, because I don't know whether you did this at all, but when you first start playing, you pick up riffs, and you sort of have 5 riffs in the bag that you can sort of pull out, and then it goes to like 10, maybe 20, and then you sort of take it from there. And one of the first things I learned was like this classical thing, which is kind of cool, especially as I got into that later on.
What was the piece that you learned, like the first classical piece?
Oh, the first classical piece. I actually, the first real piece, I think it was Grand Valse by Tarraga. But it was just the first part of it, when because they used it for the Nokia ad years ago in the 90s. So that came out, that was really popular, and I think it was in, I think Dave Kilminster did a transcription of it in one of the magazines.
Guitar Techniques, I think I recall that actually.
Yeah, Guitar Techniques. And I think, if I'm not much mistaken, that was one of the first ones. There might have been more before then, because I remember I really got into classical guitar about 95, and went and started learning all these classical guitar pieces, and just got excited about reading music and stuff, and kind of gave the electric guitar a break and went into it then, but I think it was a Tarraga piece was one of the first, I think, anyway.
Keep things kind of fresh, doesn't it, going between two things?
I loved it.
And that brings me into the next thing that I want to talk to you about, because on your YouTube channel, you'll switch between playing acoustic and playing classical and of course playing electric. Do you ever have any difficulties with, like, of course, classical guitar's got a much wider fretboard. And for me, I really struggle when I pick up a classical guitar. It just feels completely backwards to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Generally no, because I kind of it's got to the point now where I'm able to sort of interchange between them quite comfortably. But I have to kind of get used to being back on the classical guitar, you know, because things are different. Usually it's my right hand that I have to work on more, you know, and it's very, very hard to keep up, you know.
And how about the fingernails?
Oh man,
right. How do they affect your tapping and your shredding and all of that stuff?
Fingernails is an absolute nightmare, man. They really are. Because with classical guitar, you've got to look after them, and you've got to look after them really well. The slightest nick in the nail, you can really hear it in the sound, you know. And it just affects your playing. Well, it certainly does mine. So, but I really struggle because playing electric guitar, what happens is my index finger just wears the nail wears down. Also, the thumbnail just breaks all the time, so I'm always having to glue on a false nail either on the index finger or the thumb, and you'll see it in some of the videos, like a nasty looking nail. But it, you know, it sounds good and works, and when I'm having a break from the classical, I just rip it off, you know what I mean?
And you know, you need that for the tone on classical, don't you?
Absolutely.
You need the attack.
You've got to have that. I can't get that full sort of robust tone without the nails being the right shape and the right length and everything else. And it can be a pain for the electric as well, you know. The nails do get in the way a bit, and I've kind of tried to over the years restrict tapping to just doing it when I really, really need to do it, you know. And it's usually just it's usually just for, if I want to do like a little flurry or something and just add in a tap here or there. That's kind of how I've restricted it in my playing. So it kind of works, but I do have to angle the tap, the finger, depending on how long the fingernail is.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's so worth it though. One of my favourite videos of yours is quite an early one where you do air on the G string. And it's just masterful. Absolutely beautiful.
Thanks, man. I really love. I mean, I'm a Bach fanboy. Absolutely.
Me too.
Me too. Good to hear. Good to hear. I love your stuff, man. Really, really impressed with the touch and the feel and the tone.
Thanks.
Just fantastic. Really, really top-notch stuff.
Thanks for the kind words, Rick.
No worries, man. No worries.
It's always an honour when I get a comment from you on my YouTube channel. You know, when you watch something that I do and I see that you've commented, it warms my heart.
You too, man. You too. You know, I do. It's difficult because the more, obviously, the more subscribers and the more comments you get, you know, you do miss comments from people, you know, and I don't like, you know, I always want to let people know and just say thanks a lot, because it does mean a hell of a lot to me when guys like you post, and, you know, it really does. And
your channel's doing incredibly well. You just said to me earlier that you just hit 40k. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot. Just amazing stuff. It's kind of just appeared out of nowhere, but you know, I've had a lot of help from an exposure from other guys. You know, a couple of guys in Periphery, Misha and Nolly. You know, they really helped me, as well as the guys in the band Polyphia. Those guys, you know, I did a guest solo on one of their tracks, which they released just after New Year last year, which really, really gave me a lot of exposure. It was brilliant to do it. You know. Never met the guys yet. They seem like they've got a great sense of humour and just amazing players as well. So for me, that was an honour. And a lot of other guys have really, you know, sort of pushed and really helped me to get the exposure that I've got now. So, you know.
No, it's interesting these days for guys like us, because you sort of need to be a YouTube guy. And the thing is, like the whole editing thing.
Yeah.
Always incredible for me to watch your videos and see the amount of skill that you've got editing.
Yeah,
is that something that you've just sort of gradually built up the chops for? Is it something that you sort of looked into tutorials to do?
Absolutely, definitely. I spent a lot of time looking at tutorials, and
that last Triani one that you just put up the other day, I was blown away by the editing there.
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, with that one, I actually took a little bit more time than some of the others, just to get right.
Yeah.
And the takes in there, I split it up and actually edited, the takes. It wasn't a take from beginning to end. I separated the takes. Basically, it was mainly for artistic reasons rather than,
Of course, to get the right angles.
To get it right, I think it's important to, if you're putting something out, and I really, to me, this is one of my favourite tunes that he's done, and when I heard the backing by Sasha, which is amazing, that really inspired me. So I thought, I've got to make sure I get this right. So, and when I did those edits, I wanted to make it interesting from a visual perspective. So, the different angles and the different little bits in there, I thought really may well help to make it more of a visual thing, not just a listening thing.
It really is an art form, isn't it?
Oh, it really is, man. It really is. And the more I look into it, I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah. And if I had the time, I'd spend more time learning. But it's taken me a long time to get, an understanding of even just the basics that I know. And stuff like lighting and how important that is, and to keep people, to keep the keep it sharp. Keep it looking great, because you can have the greatest gear in the world, but if you've got shit lighting, you're screwed. So you've got to have good lighting.
I've got an interesting one for you. Do you find yourself, when you're just watching the telly, do you find yourself analysing the editing that they've done on the show?
Sometimes,
because that's something I find myself doing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. When I first got into the editing side of it, I was watching films and stuff, and watching the different, how much colour correction they'd put in there, and what they did with the footage and everything else, and the impact that had on, the mood of the shots and everything else. But I agree with you totally. I did that for a while.
It makes it cool to just watch the telly.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. It's the same with music. I've always realised that it's really important that for some things I do not take apart. Because I just don't want to ruin it. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily that you'll ruin it, but it will change your perception of how you feel about something. And, if I've got a piece of music that touches me in a certain way, I do not want to mess with that. And some things like, some films that I really enjoy, I kind of, I'd rather just leave those alone,
You've got to keep some things holy.
You have to, man. You have to. That's definitely my philosophy. I'm glad you share that as well.
Okay, right. So, something from watching you is I always notice how relaxed you are in your technique. Everything appears effortless. What advice would you give people who are sort of looking for that super relaxed, effortless, sort of liquid kind of technique?
It's always a really difficult one, that, actually. Appreciate that, by the way. I get that quite a lot from guys saying, how come you make it look like that? I've got to make it clear that I did not set out to do that as a primary goal. It's just something that's kind of happened over time. But the more, and this comes back to what we were talking about before about teaching and how you can learn so much from it. I kind of was able to, because people were mentioning it, I was thinking, well, maybe I am doing something, so it kind of made me look at my playing and look at my technique a bit more. And I think it's probably a lot to do with classical guitar,
That's interesting. Okay, so in terms of trying to make
it's all about
easier.
It's about what I learned in my study of classical guitar was it's all about self-awareness. It's all about how aware you are of yourself and your environment and how that's affecting what you're doing. And when you play an instrument, it's very, very easy to become glued into this position and have tunnel vision and not see beyond that. So when I got into classical guitar, it really helped me to sort of open up, become self-aware, and breathe properly, control the tension in every single muscle. Just be aware of what it is that I'm doing. Because if you're not controlling everything that you're doing, then you're not really in control. So that came from classical guitar.
I suppose also the posture. You've got great posture when you're playing, and it's the diagonal guitar angle is very...
Well, with the guitar, I hold it like classical guitar, and I actually started doing that way before I started playing classical guitar. It just felt comfortable, more comfortable for me.
You can stretch more.
Absolutely.
It's more realistic to when you're standing up. When you're standing up, your guitar isn't like this, it's like that.
Exactly. It's exactly the same for me. So that was one of the biggest things. I want to be able to play exactly the same things with no impedances whatsoever. Nothing in the way, standing up and sitting down. I need to be comfortable doing that. And that sitting position gives me that. It's exactly the same position when I'm standing up than sitting down. So that posture sitting down as well, and of course, the fact that I'm doing the majority of my work now at home in my home studio means that I'm sitting down most of the time.
Right, so it's important to have good posture so you're not ruining your back.
Very important, absolutely. So, a lot of that did come from the classical guitar. And
I suppose ultimately some of the relaxed technique is part of being...
Absolutely. Again, it boils down to being more self-aware, trying to remove yourself from this caged-in sort of mental approach that's really easy to become trapped into, and when you've got that mindset, it's very difficult to see things or feel the way that you're doing things, So being more self-aware about how you're moving and how everything's working, it just makes me feel a lot more in control. So I think that's a big part of that. Obviously there's other factors in terms of the technique and everything else, but again, it helped me. I re-looked at my technique a bit later on and thought, hang on, I really don't need to be applying anywhere near as much tension as I am. And that works for me. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody, everybody's got a different physical makeup. Everybody plays different. It's amazing. I love it. I love seeing, different players approach the guitar and, play completely differently. Some with a really soft touch, but some really heavy-handed. But it's all part of personal expression.
Yeah. I really like what you said there with the self-awareness. That's good. And I suppose in this day and age where people are recording themselves and watching back the video, you've got more chance to be more self-aware from analysing your own videos.
Absolutely, it's one of the best ways to learn. Even now, I have to be honest, I'm never more nervous than when I push the red button on a camera.
I'm the same sometimes,
I don't know why that is. I feel much more comfortable in a live playing situation. It just really a lot more comfortable. As soon as that red button's pressed, I just I don't know what it is. I'm getting that feeling now almost. You know what I mean?
It's what they call red light syndrome, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I have that. I get that a lot. And I had things that I was doing for Lick Library, and I was just thinking, like I did the Eric Johnson DVD. And I was thinking, how the hell am I going to, concentrate on getting, something as challenging as Eric Johnson stuff right? But something that happened during that performance that I did Cliffs of Dover, and I did 2 takes of it, and the second take was the one that ended up on the video, and I was just concentrating on the music. I forgot the camera was there, and it just came out. It just flowed out. And, those moments are what it's all about, when you just connect with the music and you just let whatever's in there just come out. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be completely unaware of the camera. There's sometimes that I've played things that I'm okay with, when I've been nervous and felt that I could have done better, but so it doesn't always have to be like that.
It can be a good thing. I suppose sometimes the nerves can help you bring your A game.
Absolutely. I think
you're concentrating harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
good stuff.
Just one more point about the nerves thing. I think it's essential to be nervous. I think if you're not nervous in any way, that would make me a bit concerned.
You'd have less attention to detail, perhaps.
Absolutely. It's not. What I'm saying is, it's not better if you're nervous. It's just that it creates a situation that is kind of a learning situation, you know. And that's kind of how it's been for me, and I've been able to improve, you know, so much. But I haven't been able to get rid of the nervousness. It's weird.
Yeah, well, it's something we deal with, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yeah. Okay. Right. What else have I got? Yeah. Here's an interesting one, actually, because of course, you know, your transformation is an incredible story, and you know, absolutely brilliant. I was wondering that do you think that your dedication to the guitar gave you an edge in terms of dedicating yourself to fitness, right?
Yes, I think so.
Because you put all that time into mastering the guitar. I suppose there's lots of parallels between keeping physically fit and keeping, you know, musically athletic.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's a very similar thing, and what it boils down to is the simple thing of just trying to have a goal you know, in your mind, and get as close to or achieving that goal. You know, it's the same thing. There's no difference whatsoever, and that really helped me, because you know, I realised that if I could actually, you know, I mean, it's difficult because we all know that you don't get there. You know, it's the journey that it's all about. But I knew that if I could apply the same mindset to that, I can, you know, it doesn't have to be that. It can be anything. You can do anything you like. You can do anything you want if you set your mind to it. The thing that really affected me with the transformation was, prior to the transformation, I was not in a good place. I was really unhealthy, really unfit, drinking excessively, you know, eating just crap, and just feeling like shit every day. You know, I felt really bad.
About 2 years ago now?
It was May, the date that I actually decided that I was going to do it and actually started doing it was May the 21st, 2012. So it's 2.5 years ago. And I just, from that day, something just clicked. And it's great, because now the thing that gets me more excited than anything else is seeing other people watching what I'm doing, going, God damn, if he can do it, I can do it. With whatever. Doesn't have to be, you know, what I do, posting shots on Instagram of myself shirtless and stuff. That's all for inspiring other people and making other people go, you know what, you know, screw what somebody else thinks, I'm going to do this because I really want to do it. You know, but you know, going back to what you were saying, it's about, you know, wanting to achieve this goal, having this goal, and just pushing yourself as hard as you possibly can to achieve it. You know, and I've learned so much by doing this, and now keeping fit and keeping healthy and lifting weights is just a part of my life now, and I love it, because it's now being it's turning into something that is just essential for my personal expression. And that's what it's about. It's expressing yourself as a human being, and hopefully along your journey other people will watch what you do and go, God damn, that's something that has affected me positively. I'm going to go out and do A, B, C, whatever, and just keeps that cycle going.
Absolutely. Incredibly inspiring, man. We put that video out about a year ago with you know, the shot of you at your lowest point, the day that you decided, and then, you know, looking at you now, it's just one of the most inspirational things I've ever seen.
Thank you so much, man. That really means a lot to me to hear that. You know, it really does. 'Cause
you're the man, Rick.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I really do appreciate that.
Okay.
It's just one other thing. Can I just say?
Yes.
I just want to say thanks so much to all the guys that have messaged me, saying how much what I've done has has helped them.
Oh, there's a lot of them.
It's amazing. So thank you guys.
Legions of them. Yeah. Okay. Top 5 guitarists. Always a tough one. It's usually like a revolving kind of thing, isn't it?
Right. This has to be in terms of the level. The way that I'll do it is a level of importance in the way that they've affected me.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but I can't. Obviously, I'll just give you the 5. I can't put them in any order whatsoever. First one, Joe Satriani, basically because he made me just fall in love with music and the guitar. Listening to his music and his guitar playing to me was just magical, and it changed everything. Changed my direction in life, basically. So, Joe Satriani is 1. Nuno Bettencourt 2. Again, it was a bit after sort of the Joe Satriani era, but he really just blew my mind with his the stuff that he played, his sense of rhythm and just his badass attitude, just that rock attitude, So, and his playing just phenomenal. So definitely those 2. This is guitarists we're talking about, isn't it?
Absolutely,
yeah,
yes.
Guitarists. So number 3.
Would you put Ben Gould in if it was?
If it was instrumentalist, he would definitely be there. But number 3, Derek Trucks.
That's something actually, because when I listen to your playing, you do a lot of those slide, bend back, slide, bend, and it sort of reminds me of him. Is that where that came from?
A lot of that came from that. There have been other inspirations as well that have sort of shaped that way that I play. But he is definitely one of them. And it was one of my students actually years back. Well, not that long ago actually. It would have been around about 2005, something like that. That kind of time. He came around for a lesson and just said, "Oh, listen to this guy." And he put it on. I was like, "Holy shit, who is that?" It was like he was singing. It was like a voice. The
intonation is just ridiculous.
It's just unbelievable, and so I bought his albums and just listened to that, religiously. Songlines I just listen to over and over and over again, and I love the some of the Indian influence in his playing as well. But intonation, feel, touch, just goddamn everything. Blew my mind completely.
And there's no one like him, really, is there? No. I mean, he's an unparalleled talent.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just one of those guys that is just completely unique. When you hear him, you just know that it's him, and you know that you're listening to somebody that understands and feels music just right here. And there's a video actually there's loads of them on YouTube, but there's one I think it's a compilation of solos. Every time I watch that, it just moves me beyond belief, to know that somebody...
kind of thing that, for me, I put some of his stuff on and it just inspires me to go and grab the guitar and, something I've been working on recently is trying to sound like a slide player with a whammy bar. I'm terrible with slide.
Yeah.
So I do listen a lot to him, and it just really sort of gets me in the mood to try and get some of those tones going.
Yeah. Number 4, are we on to 4 now?
I guess so, yeah.
Julian Bream. Classical player, for those guys that don't know. Classical guitar player. Amazing. He released some recordings in the 70s that, for me, are just some of the best classical guitar recordings I've ever heard. And I think in the classical guitar community, that is quite widely agreed as well. There's some guitarists around today that are just technically just mind-boggling, but you just put those recordings on, and he doesn't have that level of technique, but I mean, he's got fantastic technique, but there's something in the music and the performances that just, it's mind-blowing. So yeah, Julian Bream is definitely...
I need to do my homework on Julian Bream. I'm going to be getting YouTube up and having a look.
Yeah, he's just a phenomenal player, just so musical, incredible. Just the way he expresses himself through the guitar is just phenomenal. Oh man, number 5, goddamn.
Number 5's the hardest, isn't it?
Oh man, it's like, because that's always. I think, didn't Nick Johnston say this, that's the one that's always open to
that's
to
right,
change.
the revolving door.
Yeah, the revolving door. That's a good one. It's difficult because I'll say this and probably tomorrow I'll go, oh, shit, why didn't I say this guy? But I think... hang on. Can I just think for 2 seconds? You might have to edit this. You might have to edit this thought out, but...
no, it's tough. It is.
It's really hard.
Would you pick like maybe someone like an earlier player, like from the 60s, or a shredder?
Probably not. I think. Well, I'm thinking of the impact that it had on me in the time that I spent listening and being involved in the music. And if that's the case, I'll probably have to say Vi.
Right.
But that was kind of. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's an amazing player. But I tend not to listen these days. I tend not to listen to a lot of guitar music. But I think for definitely impacting me as a guitar player, I definitely think Steve Vai's up there.
Oh yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because when you're making guitar music all day, that's not really what you want to listen to when you're when you're having a bit of time away from it.
No.
So what do you find yourself listening to, like when you're at the gym?
I listen to trance all the time.
Yeah.
It gets me in the zone, and it just, it gets me in the zone. I get locked into the rhythm of everything, and just, I just love it. Some of the sounds as well, because before I got into the guitar playing, I was a big sort of electronic music fan. Bands like Depeche Mode and other bands that use synth-based stuff for their tunes. So that's always been a big part of me musically, because I was obsessed with Depeche Mode before I got into the guitar. Totally, that was one of the first real major musical obsessions that I had. So yeah, I listen to trance all the time.
I suppose it's a good tempo to get going to as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
To work out.
Absolutely, it just works great for me. Occasionally, I do listen to heavy stuff like Pantera.
Oh man, I'm a big Pantera fan.
Oh, absolutely, man. I remember when this is the other thing as well. It's just like Dimebag, man. God damn,
Dimebag.
He affected me because a friend of mine brought one of their first. No, it wasn't one of their first albums, but it was in the early '90s, and he said, "Listen to this." And I was like, "Who the hell is that, man?"
And like for a 3-piece to sound that heavy.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of the 90s, the first half of the 90s, listening to Pantera and Dimebag solos.
All the whammy bar work.
Oh, just phenomenal. Just really tasty soloing. So that really had a big impact on me. I think probably more than Vi, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, when I'm in the gym, that's the kind of stuff that I listen to. But in terms of guitar stuff, it's usually heavy, like Pantera.
Yeah.
So, musically, I listen to classical music every day. Always. So a lot of Bach and just any stuff. At the moment, I'm listening to a guy called Will Todd, who writes in the main choral music. And there's one piece called "In This Place" that is just, oh man, it's just stunning. So I'm listening to that quite a lot at the moment. So there's a lot of stuff in there.
Well, that's another name that I'm unfamiliar with.
Yeah, check him out. I don't think there's a lot of stuff on YouTube, but you know, you can type in Will Todd and you'll be able to, you know, listen to some of his music. It's amazing.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's about all the questions that I've got for you there, Rick. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Oh man, it's been brilliant. It's been really cool.
Yeah.
Great to speak to you. Hopefully we'll hook up in person soon.
Absolutely. I'm going to be back in England sometime next year, so it would be great if we could...
Well, stay in touch, man. Let me know and we'll hook up and we'll do some jamming.
That's great to me, mate.
Brilliant.
Well, thanks for watching, guys. See you again soon. Cheers.
Cheers.